Hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Hi, how are ya? I have zero originality. So we're sitting up here on my 6th story balcony in Tokyo, Japan. I'm sure you can hear the city and everything else that's going on, but what's most important is that you hear my voice, and I'm gonna be doing my best as well. This video has nothing to do with Japan, and has nothing to do with Tokyo either. I'm making this video because on January 2nd, this year, 2018, I went deaf in my right ear. I filmed a lot over the last year and I did not edit or upload most of those videos. The reason isn't because I didn't want to, it's because I've been exhausted and I've explained it already for the most part. I made a video about my sinus surgery and I know I mentioned that I went deaf a couple times. I know that I mentioned my ear trouble and vertigo and whatnot a couple times over the almost literal 5 videos I've made this entire year. So this video is the one I'm going to make about my deafness, just to get you a little up to date to where I am right now. So on December 31st, 2017, I started experiencing these weird dizzy spells. And during those dizzy spells, I would lose hearing in my right ear, but they would only last 10 to 20 seconds, and it was very random. So every few minutes, I would suddenly become dizzy, and my ear felt like it would need to pop. Cut forward to January 1st, it was a full moon or a dark moon, that's all I remember, and the temple and I went up to a hot spring, and I was still experiencing these dizzy spells. The next night, I was sitting in my room, on the edge of my bed, just thinking and staring at the wall, as one does. As you do. I see you. One of those dizzy spells came upon me, and it didn't last as short as the other ones, it just didn't stop. The whole room just kind of looked like it was going like it should be turning all the way around, but it's not. It's like it's going like this. And I got very sick. I started feeling sick to my stomach, so I turned over and put my front body on my bed and just laid there hoping that it would go away, and it didn't. And I was feeling so sick. My door happened to be open, and one of my housemates, David, was down the hall, but he couldn't hear me calling for him. I started yelling his name, and since he wasn't answering, I crawled to the door and was like, David! He's a really sweet guy. He definitely helped me out. We got into the hall, we called an on-call nurse, and she told me that I should go to the ER. And so I went to the ER, she called me back and asked just to make sure that I was there. At the ER, I spent several hours. I did fall asleep at one point. They gave me anti-vertigo medication and anti-nausea medication, as well as some Ativan to calm me down. It didn't help. I was calm and I was able to sleep, but the vertigo did not go away. The sickness did. I did not feel like throwing up. I threw up so many times within the first hour of being in that vertigo state. It was horrific. So the next day I called the ENT in town to set up an appointment so that I can be seen, and the receptionist told me that vertigo patients are not usually seen right away. They're usually seen weeks later, so to make sure the vertigo's gone. And I said, but what about my hearing? And she said, yeah, that's all part of it. And so she made an appointment for me on the 31st of January. Fast forward a week, and I was looking up maybe possible cures for sudden deafness, or I was just doing a bit of research. I wanted to see how long it could last. And every single medical website I came upon, you know, the main ones, WebMD, Mayo Clinic, they all said, pretty much word for word, the exact same thing, but they also all said that sudden hearing loss is a medical emergency and I should be seen as soon as it happens. Like, that should be seen as a medical emergency and I should be seen by the doctor right away. So, Joe has a couple walkers. She let me borrow one because for this entire week I was still dealing with vertigo. It was lessening, but it was horrible. And I still wanted to get around because I needed to live my life. And so I was using this walker and teetering to the side the whole time. These 2 college girls helped me across the street. That's how pathetic I was. Joe and I decided that because I had not been seen and that girl obviously didn't take my sudden hearing loss seriously, we went directly to the ENT, walked in, and I went off on the receptionist. I told her, somebody made an appointment with me. I need to be seen right now. This is unacceptable. Sudden hearing loss is a medical emergency and should be treated as one, and I cannot wait until the 31st to be seen. So she jumped up and was like running back and forth between the back and the reception desk, and she's like, "We'll get you seen, okay?" I scared the living shit out of her. Yeah. I just didn't want to be deaf for the rest of my life. I really wanted to make sure that I can get my hearing back. And every single website says that if you want to regain any of your hearing back at all, the chances are greater if you're seen immediately. And a week had already passed. So that day, the doctor saw me. He was very busy. He was back-to-back appointments, but he set aside time like within 20 minutes to see me because I was so insistent. He told me that I was gonna have to do steroid pills and injections. The thing is that because of my sinus issue, I was already on prednisone. It was my third round at the time. Over the last year, I've taken several rounds of prednisone, which is an anti-inflammatory, and I've already taken several rounds of antibiotics. He had me do some more antibiotics this time. So there was just more pills going into my body. This was happening all on top of my sinus issue and the daily migraines I was having, so it wasn't helping at all. So over the next week, I had 3 cortisone injections directly into my eardrum. And over the course of a few months, I went in periodically for hearing tests, and I was really excited because I was starting to get my hearing back. I was starting to be able to hear bass sounds, and the hearing tests showed that my hearing had improved. I was able to hear bass sounds, and I could hear voices, but I couldn't hear what the voices were saying. And usually deeper voices were easier to hear. Saying hearing it is pushing it, to be honest, because what was happening was I was actually, I would plug my hearing ear, my left ear, and then I would listen and I could hear absolutely nothing. But if I put my earbud in my ear, I can hear, music. I can hear the bass, I can hear the basic bass tune, but not the whole song. Fast forward to mid-March. Mid-March had spring break. I uploaded that video about spring break this past year, and that video pretty much centered around my sinus surgery and kind of the days before preparing for it because I had a horrible sore throat, and then the days after as I was in my early stages of recovery. Well, I also mentioned in that video that Friday I lost my hearing again. I started experiencing vertigo and I didn't understand what was going on. I just thought maybe, I was dizzy from the medications because I was on, Oxy, and I thought maybe that was making me dizzy and feeling sick. So I just didn't do a whole lot. I tried and failed, and when I went to walk to get pizza and come back, I was not feeling well about it. A few days later, while I was still experiencing this vertigo, I realized that I had lost all of the improvement that I had gotten in my ear, and it's completely dead and totally flat again. I went to the ENT, we did another hearing test, all flat lines, and the doctor told me that it would be pointless to do the cortisone injections again if, on top of my sinus surgery, I'm also dealing with a second round of sudden hearing loss, on top of just barely recovering some of my hearing. So then, the week after, when I finally got back to my apartment because I was dealing with vertigo and it was driving me nuts because I still had to go to school, I decided to try to find cureness for vertigo, and everything that I found involved these movements you do with your body, like over the course of, I think it's 2 full minutes. The treatment says that I should turn my head back and look at the ceiling for a few seconds, and then tuck my chin and bend forward, and then for several seconds and wait for the dizziness to stop, and then turn my face toward my right elbow, wait for it to stop, and then get on my hands and knees still facing this way, wait for the dizziness to stop, and then come up, and it should go away after a while. I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been dealing with vertigo for several days now, and I'm very sick of it. Do you know those videos of animals coming home from the vet after being drugged? That's how this feels. How ridiculous and funny they look flopping around just trying to drink water. That's how vertigo feels. So, but it kind of worked, it kind of did. On June 29th, I had an appointment with my doctor, Dr. Von D. He determined that at that point it had been 6 months from onset of sudden deafness, and how my hearing is now is how it's going to be forever. So I'm going to be deaf in my right ear until the day I die. Here's to hoping that my left ear does not follow suit anytime soon. If I had the capability of deciding which of my senses I could lose, that I'd be willing to lose, it would be my sight, because I'm used to being practically blind. But I didn't get to choose this. I am just living life like any average person, and I don't get to decide which sense I lose. And that's just the harsh reality of living. On that appointment on June 29th, that was when we determined that there was nothing that we can do at that point except look into hearing aid options. So we settled on getting a BAHA. A BAHA, if you don't know, is a bone anchor hearing aid, which means that I would have to undergo yet another surgery this year in order to live my life. We decided that on July 19th, which was the soonest they can get me in, unless there were any cancellations, because I knew I was going to be coming to Japan and I wanted to be healed and ready to be here. July 19th was the closest they can get it. The surgery was very simple, very short, and recovery for it was pretty easy. Like, I was pretty much fine. I didn't have much trouble getting around even the day of. I got in the car and I wanted ice cream right away, but there was no ice cream and I was very disappointed. But when I got home, I still slept on the couch, it was fine, and I was able to move around as I pleased, and that was something I didn't have with my sinus surgery. I was pretty much out of commission for months, and at this point I was still kind of slightly out of commission based on the fact that I was still recovering from my sinus surgery when I had this one. The process of implanting the titanium post is pretty straightforward. They cut open your skin, flip it back, drill a couple holes. They drill the same spot twice with different sizes so they don't crack your skull, obviously, because if you've ever built anything, you know how that works. And then they screw in the titanium post, and on top of the titanium post, they screw in a, cup that receives the hearing aid. And then they stretch the skin back over and punch a hole, and then just squish the skin on top, and then they sew up the little slit they made. In order to do that, of course, they have to shave your hair, but my doctor knew how important my hair is to me. He didn't really shave that much. He shaved about an inch length, and it was maybe in half an inch wide. It was very small. I have right here my titanium post. It looks kind of like a snap button. I didn't get my hearing aid activated until a month after my surgery. It was August 20th. I went in and got my hearing aid activated, and it was pretty surreal. I was so happy, so excited, and I wanted to cry a bit, but at the same time, the first day I had to go to work. I got it on a Monday. I had to go to work, and I was experimenting with everything, and I made myself sick. So I will tell you all about that in my next video. I'm really glad you're here to listen to my woes. I was planning to make this a long time ago. I actually had lots of clips prepared, and I was going to put it together in a sort of overtime explanatory video, but this makes a lot more sense to me. that's the story on what's going on with my hearing in general and what's happened since. And I will see you in my next video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below any questions you may have. I will do my best to answer them, and make sure to come along for my next beat. Ciao!